Welcome to another episode of Grief Heals, the podcast where we explore how it is that grief heals us with our relationship with ourselves, with one another, and our whole wide world. I am your host, Lisa Michelle Zega, and I am excited to have another conversation. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Grief Heals, the podcast where I explore how grief heals, right? Ourselves, one another, and the whole wide world. And how is it that grief heals? Like that our grief finds healing and that our grief actually embraced brings wholeness to ourselves and one another. So I am not sure. We're just playing it by ear. I am just seeing how this goes, seeing where this goes, accepting what is, believing there are no tangents, and that there are no straight lines in nature. So I am about to head out. I am going to Riverside, where I have the privilege and honor of working with two different organizations and supporting their work, specifically around working with those who are experiencing and surviving and even seeking to exit generational poverty. And I'm a little bit frazzled. I mean, I'm not feeling frazzled in my body right now. And I've kind of been going in several different directions. And part of that is because my husband had an emergency visit to the emergency room and he ended up getting back surgery. So that was not scheduled. And though that was an option and that was something he was considering, and it's been a road and we will continue to take it truly moment by moment, one day at a time. So, and when that all happened, I was out of town. And so you can just imagine, right? Like navigating all the things and prioritizing what's most important. And for me, that right now is my husband. So let's see, with that in mind, I'm feeling incredibly grateful. I sent out a text. We have a dog park family and we meet at the dog park, and we've just become integrated in one another's lives through our furry friends. And anyway, I let them know that I was going to be traveling, and everybody just kind of stepped up and said, we've got you, we've got your family, we've got your puppy. So she will be enjoying a couple of wonderful adventures just today, and they've got her covered all the way until I come home Tuesday night. So just breathing in that level of support is pretty incredible. One of the things I was thinking about was I was looking at a note I sent to a client after one of our sessions. This was last week before all this went down. And in our time together, she recognized some pain in her body. She recognized some messages, some early messages that her body has been holding, that as a little girl, she just didn't have the capacity to be present to. And in some ways that wasn't safe. So anyway, but I was struck by what I shared with her. And even though it was very, very specific to her, I was also struck by how much this is all of our story. So I made the comment in our session, you recognize that your fill in the body part is holding the message of when you felt overlooked and unworthy, right? And as you give attention to this part of your body, you're actually giving attention to yourself and remembering, coming back together with yourself and remembering that you were always worthy. You are always worthy of being seen and held and heard and loved. And I really think that that's the message that our body is holding for us, that the pain is never there to harm us. It's there to recognize like what is being stored there. And that by actually giving our presence without judgment to the places of pain in our bodies, we are coming back together. That grief that the body has been holding for all these years, as we give our body attention, we are bringing attention to our grief, and we are bringing attention to the places within us that must be loved. And how incredible is it that I can give love to myself just by loving awareness? There are two directions my brain is headed. So I'm going to go both, but the first I'm going to go to the left and say the other message that I shared with her is that her ancestry, right? Like the people, her own ancestors are holding wisdom for her that she gets to draw on. And they are also holding a message for her that may also be part of what's being held in that part of the body, where she gets to own her voice and own their voice and own her power and own their power. And oh my goodness, just the beauty of being in loving awareness and all that that opens up for us. So, okay, I'm just going to pause there. Maybe you'll take a breath with me. So breathing in and release. Let's just do that one more time. Breathing in, release. Letting that settle in your body, however it wants to settle, whatever that is bringing up in your own awareness. So something that seemed unrelated and very much is related. All things are connected. Okay, so I encountered a very, very tender part of myself last night in all the, getting my hubby home, getting a comfortable place for him, setting him up, like all the things. And then also thinking about all that I was going to need to do to get ready to leave town, to be prepared, just, all the little things. I felt this energy in me of almost, almost wanting to make big sounds like sighs and things that drew in poor me energy. And I noticed it, right? I noticed it, and I had this sense of where that came from and how that's imprinted in my body. And then it brought up this other interaction that I had very recently. And I've lost some friendships, okay? I've lost some friendships over the years of people that were really important to me. Now, I don't know that this is the actual why of it. It's just something that I recognized for myself. So I had this uncomfortable engagement with a friend who's been doing some work alongside me. And I recognize that when there are particular areas in business or work that seem like out of my wheelhouse, that seem like, I don't know how to do this, that there's a very rescue me, like help me, I can't figure this out way of being that I sometimes adopt. And when I got off the phone with this friend, I recognized, oh, dang, I have shown up that way in this relationship, right? at different times. So anyway, when I was having this encounter, so I'm getting my hubby all set up and he accidentally knocks over a lamp and a drink and all the things. And I'm getting that together and I feel this kind of heavy sigh wanting to come out of me. And I just named it and I told him and I was like, this energy, this is not about you. This is something that is historical in me, and I've got this, and it's all good, right? So, fast forward, I'm laying in bed with him, and I'm reflecting, like, he's like, babe, are you okay? And I'm like, I am more than okay. And there's this part of me, honey, that comes out sometimes that is like so helpless feeling. And then I just want to be rescued. And when I can't get rescued, I feel like I want to blame someone or judge someone or make them wrong for making me feel this way. And no one made or is making me feel this way. And then I began to let him know that I've been reflecting on this weak area and that it's been super duper uncomfortable and also kind of exciting. And both of those energies have been in me because I've been recognizing this encounter with my girlfriend is a teacher. My girlfriend is my teacher, and some part of me is wanting and needing to be held without judgment. So, as I was sharing this with my husband and also exploring the possibility that the other two friends that I've lost over the last 7 years, I guess, that I have a feeling that they were rejecting the needy part of me. They were rejecting and resenting this, and maybe it was bringing something up in them that's not for me to know. And as I recounted it, because each of these people are very, very precious to me still, and I felt so tender, like I felt like I was melting into my bed. And my husband had his hand on my arm. And I was like, okay, this is the part of me that I am being asked to hold. This is the grief that I'm being asked to enter and to not need to judge or fix her. I'm feeling not the very same thing, but I'm feeling that tenderness. And as I recount what it was like to hold this part of myself without judgment, without rejection. So I was there and I could feel the big, beautiful incredibleness of myself holding this very tender part of me that historically, I have rejected her every time she's tried to become present to me. I have rejected her and hidden behind some form of blame for others. And even blame for the caregiver in my life that I learned some of this from, that I absorbed this way of being from. What's interesting is as I was holding myself without judgment, I was able to hold that caregiver. I experienced this love that was so much bigger than me, that was also holding me. I experienced the love of my husband, and he just sat with me with a gentle hand, like a hand resting gently on my arm, and let me breathe deeply. And what happened is it's almost like my strength and my power of who I am today, and recognizing that I have been figuring it out my whole life, and that my ancestors figured it out, and the love of my parents, like it was just like I was feeling all this love and all this energy of those who have gone before me. And I thanked my hubby, I thanked myself, I thanked God. And I was like, babe, all of this is an opportunity. And even if it was just the opportunity to hold this tender, tender, tender part of myself. Oh my gosh. So I've been doing, I think I mentioned the 108 vows. Well, what I do is I follow 108 prayers or prostrations, right? And I've been using this specific one. I'll put a link to it. And then I found this other one. And I've just been doing it for 3 days. Oh my gosh, I kind of lost the train of thought because there is a specific prayer in the new one. And I recognize it's almost like different versions of the same thing, but you know how sometimes when you hear something different, it can just completely land different. And that's what's happened for me is I heard a prayer differently. And now, dag nabbit, I can't recall it, but it did have to do with that I'm responsible for my own life. Response able. I can respond in ability. And the genuine ability is to hold myself come what may, to have my own back come what may. And I'll tell you what, I don't remember the last sentence that sparked the desire to tell you about, about the new prayers. I don't have it. And if it wants to come back, it will come. And if not, I'm just trusting. I'm trusting that there's something here for you, for me, for us. But I think I'll end this with saying that grief, one of the ways that grief heals in both directions, like our grief heals and our grief heals us, is by being witnessed without judgment. Oh, it came back. So in the prayers, the greatest loss, recognizing the greatest loss I've ever experienced is the loss of being present to myself. Just letting that land. That's one of the prayers in these prostrations I've been doing. And I think it might even be saying like repenting as I realize that the greatest loss is the loss I've experienced in not being present to myself. And it's a repentance of like a call that I am returning to myself, to witness myself. So that's what was being made available to me last night when the first two relationship breakdowns, I didn't completely reject myself, but I did hold myself as like, it was kind of like in a victim-y, why would they leave me? And then there was also a part of me that's like, hey, they get to have their journey, right? And I wasn't really present to this part of me that asks for what others can't give, that's asking for someone to rescue me, and at the same time not wanting to be a victim, right? And so this time I was able to be with the tender part of me, the young part of me that in some ways was a victim. And in this regard, that our younger selves do not have the capacity to, like, we are dependent on our caregivers, right? So in that way, being at the mercy of caregivers, in that way, I'm using the word victim. And yet there's this tension, right? Because I'm also the heroine of my own story. And so what I ended up getting to do is, as the heroine that is me, I get to go and hold that young part of myself. And that is often what grief is inviting us to do. the parts of ourselves that we have disengaged from, rejected, hidden away, not been present to, compensated for. Grief is often calling us back to hold that part of us and to experience that greatest and deepest loss, the loss of presence to our own humanity. And my own belief is that as we become present to ourselves, we become present to each other, and we become present to our world, so that everyone, ourselves, each other, the world, in fact, all beings, get to be loved, and we become part of the wholeness, the healing of our whole wide world, and not just as we experience the present moment, but in the past, in the present, in the future, recognizing that even time is not divided in the way that we experience time being divided, right? That it's all one. We are all one. We are collectively one. And as we lean into our grief, we lean in to our wholeness, our oneness, our healing. Whew. So let's just take a moment to breathe together. Inhaling, exhaling, inhaling again, exhaling, recognizing together we breathe the same air. And now, if you are willing, and am I willing, we can do a collective, group, energetic, magical, big, wide open hug. So, arms out, grabbing all of us, come in slowly, tight, squeeze, hold, feel the love, breathe it in. Thank you for investing your time, your energy, your heart into healing not just yourself, but all of us. I love and appreciate you. Mwah! Until next time.
You've been listening to Grief Heals with Lisa Michelle Zega. The podcast is produced by me, Eric Simpson, in association with Jump Up and Down Productions. Music by Kendalian, Drunken Nights to Sunday Mornings, and Stefan Carlin, A Calming Ocean, A Common Notion. If you would like more information about the work Lisa does, point your browsers to legityou.com. That's LEGITYOU. Lisa can also be reached at lisamichelle@legityou.com. This has been a Jump Up and Down production.